All right, today we're jumping into a study that asks a pretty radical question. What if the way we measure success in our schools is just fundamentally broken? We're going to explore a new way of seeing them, not as factories, but as complex living systems. For decades, the go-to method for evaluating schools, for evaluating teacher leaders, has been this really simple equation. Their actions have to directly lead to higher student test scores. It seems clean, it seems straightforward. But what if it's missing the point entirely? And this is that model, the one that's dominated education policy for years. It's a nice, neat, linear path, right? A teacher leader does something, teachers change how they teach, students change how they act, and boom, test scores go up. Simple, predictable, and, really easy to put on a spreadsheet. But here's the thing, researchers are pointing out, this model is just deeply flawed. Because a school isn't a factory. It's not an assembly line. It's this dynamic, kind of messy and wonderfully human place. So what if we just stopped thinking of schools as factories and started seeing them as what they really are, living ecosystems? Instead of that predictable production line, just imagine a vibrant, interconnected environment that's all about adapting and growing, not just churning out standardized test scores. Now, this new perspective is grounded in something called complexity theory. And it gives us this really powerful way to understand how change actually happens in a complex system like a school. It helps us see the school as a living, learning organism. Okay, so the first key idea here is collective autonomy. This basically means that individual teachers aren't just cogs in a machine. They're independent people making their own choices. And a great teacher leader, they know how to connect those individual choices, those sparks of genius, to the growth of the entire school. Then you've got information processing. Think of teacher leaders as the school's nervous system. They're gathering signals from all over, from classrooms, from administrators, from students, and helping the whole school process that information to make smarter decisions and, create new knowledge together. And the third piece of this puzzle is co-evolution. This is the idea that as one part of the system gets better, it helps all the other parts get better too. Students, teachers, administrators, they all start to evolve together, responding to each other and creating a healthier, more intelligent system overall. Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, right? But does it actually hold up in the real world? Well, to find out, researchers put this framework to the test inside New York City's Teacher Career Pathways program, which just happens to be the perfect place to see this in action. And get this, the scale we're talking about is just huge. We're talking over 1,400 teacher leaders spread across more than 600 schools. This wasn't some tiny little pilot program. It was a massive initiative, which makes it an ideal case study. The program had these 3 different leadership roles, each one kind of building on the last. You had model teachers with their lab classrooms, all the way up to master teachers who were helping drive change across the entire district. The whole point was to spread out leadership and expertise. So, the big question, what did the researchers find when they dug into the reports from these leaders? Well, it was pretty incredible. They found clear, powerful evidence of all these complex dynamics at work in the real world. For starters, they found that the most effective leaders were not just giving top-down orders. Instead, they were busy building systems that connected individual teacher goals and passions to the school's overall health. They were fostering that sense of collective autonomy. I mean, listen to this quote. It's a perfect example. Instead of telling teachers what they needed to work on, this leader is empowering them to choose their own path and then connecting them with others. That, right there, is how you build a collaborative, self-improving culture from the ground up. Next up, these leaders were also acting as these crucial information hubs. They weren't just stuck in their own classroom or just in meetings with the principal. They were moving between those worlds, making sure that vital information could flow freely between them. And this is so important because they were breaking down the traditional silos, the walls between teachers and administration. This leaders' debrief meeting ensures that what's actually happening on the ground with teachers directly informs the big picture decisions. It just makes the whole system smarter. And finally, their work wasn't happening in a vacuum. It was creating this incredible ripple effect, where growth in one area would spark positive change in another, allowing the entire school community to actually evolve together. Just think about the impact of this for a second. By leading over 100 of their colleagues on classroom visits, this leader didn't just help one teacher get better. They changed the entire school's culture around observation and collaboration. They created an environment where everyone, adults and students, could learn and evolve together. Now, look, it wasn't a perfect success story every single time. The study was also really clear that progress would just stall out whenever leaders fell back into those old, top down power dynamics. Or, and this is key, when that foundation of relational trust between everyone just wasn't there. So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Why does shifting from that old factory model to this new ecosystem model actually matter for our schools? Well, it means that real school success is so much more than a test score. It's about the health of the entire system. It means that teacher leaders are these vital connectors who make that system intelligent and adaptive. But it also shows that none of this works without trust as the absolute bedrock. And ultimately, it tells us we really need better tools to see and value this complex, essential work, moving beyond simple spreadsheets to truly understand what makes a school thrive. And that leaves us with this one big question to chew on. If this outdated factory model is totally failing to capture what really matters in our schools, where else in our society, in our businesses, our communities, even our governments, might we be using the completely wrong tools to measure success?